All right, welcome back to the Make It Count podcast, a small business accounting and personal finance podcast based on the idea that when you account for your money, you can make a whole lot of other things in life count too. I'm Tyler Warner, co-host with Marcus Mire, founder of Mire Group CPAs and the Total Control Accounting System.
That's right.
Designed to lead you out of chaos in your accounting and into total control. This is episode number 4, and we're talking about how to streamline your entire back office. And Marcus, I gotta say, I don't know if there's another topic you're more passionate about.
Yeah, another topic that I think more about at night.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that in a sec. I want to take a little step back and just kind of reset. So one of the questions I've gotten, it's a really good question, and they say, to our, I think, 8 listeners, is what is Tyler's role?
What the heck is this guy doing
Yeah,
here?
what the heck is this guy doing on the podcast? So I want to take a step back, introduce you, and let you talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
So Tyler is obviously the host of the podcast. He's helped me a ton get Mire Group off the ground, whether that be from building the brand and the website, and just a guy with a lot of great ideas. But
yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm here because you invited me. And no, I'm excited to be basically just play the role of the everyman.
right, but you use some of these tools, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Marcus has seen me in the lowest valleys of accounting.
I've seen you at your accounting best and your accounting worst.
That's right, and you've pulled me out of the ditches, and so yeah, I think, I use these tools. I won't say on a daily basis,
right.
But I think that's why I'm here. Is I can kind of ask the questions that maybe the average small business owner would be kind of asking,
right,
from the perspective of somebody who isn't an accounting professional.
Right. And so, and the reason I wanted to have you as the host is because you do own a business, you use Xero and you use Gusto, but you're not an accountant. So I think it kind of comes full circle. And so for those thinking like, okay, why is Tyler on the podcast? That's the reason.
And funny enough, with this episode talking about streamlining things, I think we kind of really developed a friendship over, back in the day reading 4-Hour Work Week, and
right.
just kind of have always loved business and automation and streamlining things, and so yeah, I think that's probably why we just felt like there was some alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you let me you keep me from getting to accountant talk.
Yeah,
less jargon.
You can see my eyes start to
right.
My wheels turning.
Right. All right, so let's get into it. So what does a efficient back office look like? And as we were kind of talking, and I think what we'll do is you'll probably drill down on these. I know you'll ask me some questions on these, but I wrote down 3 things, just kind of came off the top of my head.
Right.
So an efficient back office looks like data is centralized and it's in one place. So we're talking your accounting software. And that could also mean you might have a connected app or two. Like most accounting software now, the cloud-based ones, they don't do everything, and there's a reason for that, is because they allow you to connect to third-party applications that really specialize. So think of your, like with your wife's business, you've got Shopify, right? You wouldn't want Xero or QuickBooks Online being your e-commerce platform.
Right.
You would connect Shopify because that's all Shopify does, and they do it well, and they allow for an API integration.
Yeah.
So first thing, good back office would be data in one place, a centralized hub, and the elimination of manual tasks. So given the Shopify example, you don't have somebody that's handling e-commerce and then posting the sales in the file, because the data is connected and flowing through on an API integration. It's done for you.
Right.
So you don't have to have somebody that has to come back and post the deposits. I'm sure everybody's heard that term. I got to post the deposits. I got to do the data entry. A lot of that's eliminated. And so that's kind of the first thing, was get it in centralized hub and then start to eliminate repetitive tasks. Second thing, what a streamlined back office would look like is that you have accurate financial data in real time. So an example of that would be a banker needs a P&L or a balance sheet because you got to get a loan, you want to bring in investors, or you just want to use it to manage your business best with your team, whether that be your sales team, your kind of your executive team, whatever that looks like. You've got accurate data at the ready to make decisions. And the third thing would be taking that data. You've got, so you've got good data, you've got it in one place, you're eliminating the tasks, and now you're taking that data and making predictions. What if analysis, predictive cash flow, what happens if we buy a building, hire a new employee, new line of business. So you're acting on the data. So that's kind of the third step in streamlining the back office.
Yeah, man, that sounds like total control. So starting with like the first point, right? Kind of eliminating these redundant tasks.
Right.
Describe some of those things. Like if you're kind of sitting here listening to this, what are some things that you know confidently, like cloud accounting?
Right.
If you're doing this, cloud accounting can save so much time.
First one comes to mind is really simple one's data entry. And so all the cloud softwares are generally going to have a bank feed. And what that does is simply it pulls the data in. When I say pulls the data in, it means Xero. I talk about Xero a lot because that's the one we use. They connect to your bank and credit cards, and the transactions are loaded into the file for you. So let's talk quickly about one step eliminated. The step eliminated is posting those transactions, right? You don't have to post your debit card transactions, your credit cards. That's all done. And so then you begin to set rules and automate around a bank feed. So that's the first thing what you could do in terms of eliminating tasks is simply the bank feed. I've heard for years, and anybody who's worked in an accounting firm or even been around bookkeeping knows the kind of drudgery around somebody with bank statements posting those transactions. It happens at a lot of firms still, but it can be completely eliminated and then automated where you want to move to a situation where you're checking what the software is doing versus inputting. That's really the holy grail of this, is where the software is working for you and you're checking the output kind of with a predictive test.
Yeah.
So that's really one way. A second way I would give you is if you are invoicing in a different manner than in your accounting software, again, repetitive. Lots of people. I got a new client coming in about a week and a half. They say they're doing sales tax in one document. They're doing invoicing on a spreadsheet. They do accounting in QuickBooks. They do payroll in another place. Like if you're invoicing on a spreadsheet, you're having to, if you want a good set of books, post that information in your accounting software so that you have an accurate AR ledger. So lots of redundant tasks can be eliminated using cloud.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, you can kind of geek out on this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned the invoicing, right? Well, I know like Shopify connecting does that automatically, and you'd kind of expect that, right? Shopify is a pretty big platform, but even like proposal software.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you described the stuff you guys even
Yeah.
use, right? It goes from the proposal. Once that's accepted, it automatically sends an invoice. That invoice is then not reconciled, but tracked in Xero.
Yeah.
And then once that invoice is paid, then it is appropriately reconciled. So, I mean, that's a ton of tasks just wiped out.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, it's kind of on you're talking about our firm, but we're a professional services firm. We're no different than another professional services firm that sends proposals, that bills people, that collects. So let's talk about that. Like to get to your example, just to get in the weeds a little bit, we use Practice Ignition for any of our flat rate and really a lot of our clients. Now we're pretty much moving everybody to that kind of engagement. So what does Practice Ignition do? And I know a lot of people in their business can relate to these things. Pre-populated templates. So when we want to send somebody a quote or a proposal, it's got pre-populated templates and we can customize those. So now we've got a clear understanding. Like as I'm talking, I'm thinking about all the things it's going to eliminate. We've got a clear understanding with the client of the task we're doing, what we're not doing, probably more importantly, what's not included. That gets sent to them. They sign the engagement letter digitally and they agree to the price. So first off, clear transparency. You don't have somebody back and forth through emails with someone. Then that engagement is tied to your accounting software in a sense that you're telling Practice Ignition what you're billing them per month. You tell Practice Ignition that you can't accept, you being the client, can't accept the proposal without your banking or credit card information put in. So now it's automating the collection cycle. We talked about that in the past episode about payments, about the time and manpower it takes to collect. Payments are being collected now. The invoice, because it's connected, again, through API integration, goes into Xero. Xero says, hey, we've got this invoice outstanding. And then when Practice Ignition collects, which is normally a couple days later, applies the payment to the invoice and settles it up.
Yeah. We relied a lot on basically proposal software in web and marketing. I mean, you can get buried creating these proposals. So once you create the templates,
right.
You can generate those. And another bonus too is like you can you can see who's looked at the proposal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is great. And then and then once they've approved it, you can kind of create these domino effect of things that happen and keeps things moving. So quickly.
We're using proposal as one example, but there's lots. I mean, there's hundreds of apps that name your thing that jump in that gap to automate tasks. And so really, we're using an example of practice ignition and our quoting, but name your process you're trying to solve. There's generally an app that will connect to your accounting software that handles a lot of those tasks and gets you out of certain tasks or a lot of tasks.
Yeah. So moving on to the second sort of step of this process in terms of real-time accurate data. What are the moves there? What can we be doing there?
Yeah. So once you got the data in one place, you can really start to fine tune it. Like I was talking about the bank feeds. You and I got to talking about engagements and proposals. So you start to then fine tune to get data flowing in, and data flowing in such a way that you're accounting for it without all of the legwork, without all of the, people pushing paper and entering transactions. So such that you can really start to rely on your financial information at a glance. So you can say, look, we've got somebody in-house that does this, or we've got, better yet, a firm like ours doing it. We know it's right. We can hand this to a banker, a lender, a partner, a sales manager, a VP. Just name your stakeholder that you want to bring into the fold. But once you have it, you really can start to make some progress, because a lot of the legwork of doing the accounting starts to get done for you, especially with AI and machine learning. These software start to learn your patterns. I mean, they start to predict, when you go to Office Depot, it's kind of, presupposes that that's office supplies.
Yeah. I feel like that's an easy one for a robot.
Yes, yeah. We need to get them some curveballs.
Yeah. Man, so one of the things I was thinking about when you were defining kind of what Streamline could look like, and this is a simple one, but just the notifications or that these reports could be sent to you routinely without you having to go into it, is one where it just makes you feel like, okay, I've got a handle on that feels like emotionally streamlined.
Right.
If you're like, whoa, this data was presented to me, I may not have gone in, logged in and gone and checked, what my P&L was or whatever. But if you can kind of get those things sent to you routinely, that makes you feel like you've got it streamlined too. Right. And that's I just think another advantage of the cloud and web-based software.
Absolutely.
So the second thing, this is kind of like the next level, right? Once you've got accurate data, then you can start to predict cash flow, make decisions. Right. What does that look like in terms of streamlining?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, so predicting cash flow and making decisions is great, but also I'll throw a third one in, managing problems. So when you've got your data and it's ongoing, accurate, and reliable, when something happens, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So like when something pops up on your P&L and okay, we normally, our ad spend is normally 3% of sales, and that's 18%, like light bulbs go off, right? So it also helps to start to manage to manage problems before they become bigger problems, and then just to help you predict, okay, we're going into a season, maybe we're a seasonal business, okay, sales are going to drop. What is that going to look like from our cash flow perspective, in the sense that, okay, maybe we know, because we got really good data and we can predict, we could pay down 20 grand on our line of credit and save that interest, or 100 grand, but we need to borrow a little money to weather the storm. So you start to get into that fine tuning of areas where you're using your cash to the best of your ability, whether that's, okay, we've built up a nice war chest and we know we've had 8 months of expenses in cash. Let's take 6 months and invest it. Make a certain investment that will yield something versus the money just sitting in the bank account. But that all comes from having the past done properly, meaning the accounting, right? You've taken care of the data. You get it to a predictable state where you know where you're going, and then you're using it to predict the future.
Right. Man, so if you were going to try and when you look at a business, or probably people come in and introduce themselves as just like, hey, I need some accounting or whatever. And this doesn't feel like what you would necessarily go to an accountant for.
Right.
What is the first step for you? I mean, you just kind of look at the business and say, okay, I can already kind of spot where there might be some room for improvement.
Yeah, we walk them. So I will give you a real world example. Yesterday, I go to, and this, I think I mentioned this before. I'm at a birthday party and somebody walks up to me and they go, man, I just don't get any ideas from my accountant. I never hear from them. And I'm saying that is because that's normally the first place we start, is saying, what do you want out of an engagement with your accountant? Because to that point, that accountant thinks you only want tax compliance because that's all you've ever come to them for. But the proposals haven't been, slid across the table and say, but there's all these other things we could do. So what I would say is we sit down, and we're building this right now internally, is what are the steps to move to us? I mean, because we're getting clients all the time asking, kind of making those complaints. So the first thing is we sit with you and we do kind of a diagnostic test. We ask questions. Okay, what does your accounting look like in terms of your processes, the software, and the people? So who's doing it? What are they doing it in? And kind of what does that look like? Once we do that and we say, okay, really you need some help here, here, and here. And for us, that's, give a perfect example. You're invoicing on a spreadsheet. You need to get into the software. You're managing inventory on a spreadsheet. You need to get into the software. Okay, maybe this software isn't perfect. We'll connect an inventory app to do that really well. So kind of get your foundation set. Like we talk about these things. What are your goals? Let's manage the problems. Let's fix the problems. Get the foundation set. Get consistent, and then the good stuff happens. But in my experience, it all has to start from what are you trying to accomplish? And then we as accountants, especially a cloud firm, have a lot of solutions for back office. But people just, like you said, a lot of times they just go to their accountant to do their tax return. And if you're and increasingly, we are getting to where we don't want that kind of engagement. Not because anything wrong with the client or doing that type of work, is that we're not getting to do all of the things we can do to help you. And so if we take that kind of client, it gets in the way sometimes of a client that we could really help build their back office and streamline and get them some results.
Yeah, these are solutions that maybe traditionally feel like they come from IT, right? But they're sort of central now to cloud accounting, and they can really improve your whole back office.
Yeah, there's a term kind of going around the cloud world. It's called the cloud technologist, accounting technologist. And I think I read recently, even in the CPA firm, they're adding a part of the focus of the CPA exam. They're even adding a portion of the CPA exam to be around technology and automation. Because increasingly, who should you go to that's going to help you make your back office, your financials, your accounting run better? It should be your accountant. It shouldn't be somebody. They shouldn't be somebody that you just talk to once a year to recap what's done, tell you what you made or didn't make, and file your tax return. If that's what you're doing, you're missing out. Especially if you have a few problems worth solving, you're missing out on all of that good stuff that you could be doing with your CPA throughout the year to make your business run better.
Yeah. So what would you say to this hunch, right? I'm getting the sense that the first step is to just take inventory of where there might be and I feel like as a business owner, you kind of have those hunches, right? You can feel where where you're doing things twice, or your data entries, taking too long or whatever. You can feel those things. Would you say it's safe to just follow those hunches and that there's probably some sort of app out there that can help it?
Absolutely. I think about this all the time. If you're doing something and you start to think, man, this feels pretty manual. Not always, but a lot. A lot of the time there's something that can solve that with there's some software, technology, application, whatever you call it, that can jump in that process and help you. But it's like anything, you have to learn it. There's a learning curve. There's a time investment on the front end. We always talk about that here in terms of leverage. We tell clients now we've got enough experience with this. Hey, the beginning's going to be bumpy because you're going to be learning new software. We're going to be converting you, but man, you're going to leverage it out into perpetuity.
Awesome. That's a good spot to end it. yeah, stay on the lookout for more podcasts. We got a lot more topics to cover.
Absolutely.
And thanks for listening.
See you next time.